Welcome to the podcast editing and support show. My name is Dave. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start the episode right now. Happy to have you here. Let's do this. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Glad to be with you. We are in our little mini series we're doing here around implementing project-based pricing for your podcast services. Today we're going to look at your expertise, what you know, as a competitive advantage in this crowded little space we have in podcast editing and support. Yes, there are other people who do this. Really, there are, and you need some way to make yourself stand out amongst all of the others. So I want to jump into some things about how you can leverage what you know and how you do things in podcasting that maybe your competition doesn't do as well or hasn't even attempted at trying. So this could set you apart from everybody else in this noisy space. You want to know how many podcast editors there are? Go into a Facebook group and say, I'm looking for an editor. And then watch the seagulls descend from the sky. Mine, 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 mine. Here they come. They just come out of every single location you can think of because everybody's looking for clients. Everybody's looking to grow their business. So in this crowded space, how do we stand out? How do we do something different? Well, we need to leverage our expertise. There are things that you do better than everyone else. We need to uncover that and then use that as to our advantage so that we can compete in such a crowded space. So when you're considering your expertise as a podcast editor and support person, it's crucial to thoroughly evaluate and articulate your value proposition. What is unique about what you do? So I want to look at how you can leverage your experience. First of all, you need to start at the beginning and evaluate your unique skills and experience in podcast production. As we look at evaluating our skill set, we need to do some homework. We need to do some reflection and look back and go, okay, well, here's where I thrive. Here's where I struggle. Here are my strong points. Here are my weak points. So let's look at audio editing proficiency. You need to assess your skills in the software that you choose to use. Some people like Adobe Audition. Some people like to use Descript. Some use Pro Tools. Some of these are very expensive. So for me, who works full-time and does this on the side and supports amazing podcasters like you, I'm using Audacity because I've been using Audacity longer than there have been podcasts. So that gives you some context. I'm old. So I love Audacity, A, because it's free, and B, I know it like the back of my hand, which I'm actually looking at right now. And yep, there it is, back of my hand. I know Audacity inside and out. And for me, it's like another appendage of my body. It's just another arm, another finger. I know it inside and out. So to go learn some other tool and pay for it seems like a waste of time for me. And I've actually had people say, well, I would hire you, but you got to use Pro Tools. I'm like, well, then I'm not working for you. So I like to use the tools that I'm good at. There's no reason to go learn a different tool just so I can say, look at me. I'm fancy Pro Tools person. Whatever. I like Audacity. That's where I live. So I know my proficiency in Audacity is probably one of my strongest points because I do music editing, I do podcast editing, I can create all kinds of soundscapes. I've got so much experience in Audacity that anybody that's starting out today, I can teach you a lot. And again, the platform's free. I know it inside and out. So that's my unique advantage. Your unique advantage might be Adobe Audition. And somebody's looking for somebody with Adobe Audition background, I won't get the job. And I really won't even try. So that's yours. Congratulations. You just got a new client. And they're not for me. I know my tools. I know what I use. And I know what works for me. And I have no fear of missing out in that because I will find my people because they're going to like me. They're going to stick with me. Another one is how you structure the narrative around your podcasting. Consider your ability to arrange content for optimal flow and engagement. Just because it was recorded in a linear fashion, introduction, main content, conclusion, you can still get in and move things around without changing context, without changing the meaning of what's being said in the podcast. And you can tighten things up and move things around where that question would do better at the beginning than at the end. And I'm going to cut that section and move it. There's all kinds of things we can do as an editor that make the show better, make your host sound better. So you can actually change the narrative of the episode by how you edit the podcast. Beyond the ums and ahs, please, people, beyond the ums and ahs, we can make a podcast better by how we edit. Change the narrative, make the podcast better. We can do that. Another thing we can do is sound design. You need to be reflective and think, okay, evaluate your expertise in incorporating music, sound effects, transitions, things that make the podcast move forward, that keep people engaged as a listener longer. You can add all kinds of interesting things to make your podcast for your clients sound better. So like, for example, if I was walking in the snow right now in the forest, then this would be the sounds that I would like to have, the crunching of the snow under my feet as I walk through the forest. This is stuff you can add just to kind of pad and give context and help your podcast be a little more immersive than just a voice talking into your ear. Think about how you can create more better sound design elements for your podcast. This could be your competitive advantage over somebody who has no idea how to do this. You can do it better as well. And one other option around evaluating your unique skills and experience is to understand technical troubleshooting. The ability to assess, to resolve audio issues like background noise or inconsistent levels, a random sound that just seems to repeat itself during the recording. Good example, I had someone in a Facebook group say they recorded an interview with 3 other voices, so 4 voices total, including the host, and there was this weird click noise, and they thought it was internet issues or something. And so I volunteered to go and look at the file, and they sent it to me. I had 4 separate channels, and so I could isolate where the clicks were happening, where this repeated noise was happening. And it wasn't any of the guests, it was the host. And I noticed that all the clicks happen just before the host spoke and just after they spoke. So the host would ask a question, there'd be a click sound, and then there would be the question, and then a click sound as the host stopped talking. Like, it's very interesting that it happens before and after every time they speak. And they were adamant that there was an internet issue. And they thought that it was for someone else's track. So I reached back out to the host. I'm like, listen, from what I can see on the screen and as I look, it's not on any other track. It's none of your guests. It's actually you as the host is where it's coming from. And it seems to happen before and after you ask a question or you give input in the episode. I said, can you tell me what you're doing during the recording? And they said, oh, well, on my mic, I have a mute button. So I'm clicking the mute button on and off so that I don't talk over my guests. Yeah, there's the issue. You're touching your mic and you're clicking a button on and off, which then makes a sound in the recording. You're handling the mic. I'm like, if you want to pay somebody to remove all these clicks on and off, it's going to cost you money. Or you could just not touch your mic and then maybe don't talk when your guests are talking. Problem solved. So that's just from looking at a file. I can tell what's happening in the background and ask better questions, which help that podcaster, and they just stopped touching the mic and they didn't need my help anymore. So I kind of worked myself out of a job, but the ability to be a technical troubleshooting expert in the background, that could be your competitive advantage over somebody who doesn't understand audio, dumps a file into a program that does all the work for you, and then bills the customer. I like to be the person who can get in there and make things happen. So, yeah. Be a technical troubleshooting genius, and that could be your superpower, which is your competitive advantage your expertise in display, on full display for your audience. That could be how you land your next client. The second part of all this around your expertise as a competitive advantage is to factor in your track record of successful podcasts and your reputation within the podcast industry. When you look back over all of the things you've done in podcasting, whether it's editing your own show or editing for others, wherever you are in that stage in your journey, you need to factor in the idea that you have a track record. I love the idea of a podcast editor and support person that actually has a podcast. That tells me that you have skin in the game. You're really in the whole community. You're not just from the outside milking money from the industry, and you don't have any viability. You don't have any stake in what happens in podcasting. And I think the more you podcast as a editor and support person, the more connected you are to the audience and to your fellow podcasters and to potential clients. All these things fit together. You are going to build a portfolio over time. Again, even if it's only your own show. I have over 1,500 episodes, over 8 podcasts in 5 years. Every November, I do 30 episodes in 30 days for my podcast. This past year, 2024, 3 of my 8 podcasts participated. That's 90 episodes in 1 month. This year, I'm going to be doing 4 of my podcasts for November National Podcast Post Month. 30 episodes, 30 days times 4. 120 episodes are going to go out this November from my own show. So just in the act of repetition, doing the thing and being prolific as a podcaster opens the door for me to build a portfolio that you can go hear my work and make a decision right there, then and there, if I'm the right person for you, just based on what you hear me putting out as a content creator. So leverage your portfolio and make your portfolio diverse. So it's not all just a solo episode. It's not all 2 talking heads. Like, put some thought into making your podcast different so it stands out. Highlight your experiences across various podcast genres and formats so that people can see some of the things that you are really good at. The other part is to get your clients to give you a testimonial. People love a good word of mouth. People love a good recommendation. Compile feedback from previous clients. Put them on your website. Make an episode about them. Have your clients share their thoughts in your podcast or in your social media platform to demonstrate your impact on their specific show. It's going to help. It's really going to help because people trust people. And if you can get your clients to talk about you, that's great. Industry recognition is another one. Look for possibility for awards or recognition for what you do, to be featured or speaking engagements related to podcast editing. Coming up for me, I'm going to be speaking to a group of students here in Canada on the opposite coast of where I am. And I'm going to be a guest speaker around podcasting in this classroom setting in a school. So that's a great thing. I'm going to try to get a recommendation from that teacher that I can put on my website because I'd like to do more teaching and speaking in the future. So leverage every opportunity to get more opportunities. And don't be afraid to start for free and leverage that great word of mouth to get you more opportunities in the future. And then as well, leverage any quantifiable results. You need to track your metrics, like you help somebody increase their listenership, or you improve someone's ratings for their podcast that you edited. You help them with their social media. They have a better engagement on their website because you help them with their website. Their show notes are better because you now help them with their show notes, and they're not just using an AI tool that gives marginal results. It's a human creating the show notes, and it sounds better, it works better, and it's got better engagement. Your show notes are turned into LinkedIn articles and blog posts and all kinds of great things. You're pulling out quotes. You're doing all kinds of awesome things because you're working with the right people. show results. Results speak for themselves. The third part in all of this we're talking about today around your expertise as a competitive advantage is to consider any specialized knowledge or techniques that you bring to the podcast space as an editor and support person. So what kind of specialized knowledge or techniques do you have? You got to have something special about what you do. Then you need to highlight these things. What is your niche expertise? And to my US friends, niche expertise. Highlight any specialized knowledge in particular around the industry or topics around podcasting. Maybe you know all of the latest stats, so you can guide and lead your podcasters who don't have time to nerd out about how many podcasts there are and how active podcasts are, or maybe you can be their dashboard for any reviews or comments. Maybe you can be their dashboard for any ratings that have happened to the podcast. Maybe you can help them with their speak pipe or their buy me a coffee. You could be the behind the scenes person to help them because you have direct expertise that support podcasters in a way that other podcast editors and support people might not do. So figure out what's your niche. Again, for my US friends, your niche, and leverage that. As well, use innovative editing techniques to highlight what you can do. Showcase unique approaches you've developed for enhancing podcast quality. If you're an expert on taking Zoom audio from a laptop computer with no microphone and making it sound like the person's right there in your head, and you know how to do that, then leverage that. You have innovative ways of doing things that other people either are afraid to try, they don't have the time or effort to learn it. That could be the thing that sets you apart from all of these other seagulls that pounce on the person in Facebook saying they need help with an editor. Find something innovative that you do and leverage it. Also, look at how you do your workflow and your optimization. Maybe emphasize any type of system that you've created for efficient editing. It might be common practice to you, but to someone else, it's earth-shattering. They've never heard of it this way. They've never seen it done that way. And to you, it's like, well, this is how I've been doing it for years. You could then teach that. You can then give people the tools and show them how to use it in the way you're doing it, completely different than everyone else. And then consider any additional services like helping people develop their skills in show note creation, transcription, content repurposing. There's so many other things that you can do as additional services that complement the ums and the ahs, which people think that's all we do. There's other things that you can offer to your clients that make you stand out compared to the others that are either an AI tool or somebody who uses an AI tool and then tells you that they're an editor. Yeah, you can hear my bias in that one. The fourth part of all this is to assess the value that you can provide in terms of improving your client's podcast quality and your podcaster's reach for their show. Anything that you can do around quality enhancement will help your podcaster and their show be better. Demonstrate how your editing can elevate the overall listening experience for your audience and have listeners listen longer. So they're not leaving, 60 seconds after they hit play. They're staying for the entire 45 minutes of the episode or 30 minutes of the episode. You're keeping listeners longer by how you edit the show. It sounds good. It's intriguing. It's engaging. All of these things are great ways for you to bring in more people to that podcast and help them grow and keep people longer. Help your podcaster as well with some audience growth strategies. Offer insights on improving the podcast and how it's discovered and how it's engaged with. The whole idea around growing your show means so many different things. Growth can mean number of listeners. Growth can be depth of listenership. Growth could be engagement with listeners. There's so many different nuances to the word grow in relation to podcasting. You can help your podcasters in all these different ways. Help your podcaster grow their audience, and they'll stay with you. As well, help your podcaster with the consistency of their brand. Highlight your ability to maintain a consistent sound and style across social media, through the podcast, through artwork, through YouTube. Help your podcaster be known for something and identifiable by your help to create the right look and feel and tone through the artwork and the sound of the podcast. You can be that brand champion for the podcaster. Because again, remember, not all podcasters have time to do all these things. That's why they're looking to hire you. So you need to be able to do this and do it well. So think about how you can help your podcaster be better at branding. And then one last thing too here under this whole idea of improving your client's podcast quality and reach is to offer time-saving value to the podcaster. Emphasize how your expertise allows podcast creators to focus on content creation rather than editing, rather than asset creation, rather than all the other things that happen. Just by you taking over all the behind-the-scenes stuff allows them the freedom to create better content. And that is the source of everything working well. By creating better content and your services to make that content better and sound better and connect better, your podcaster is going to be set up for success. So by thoroughly evaluating and articulating your expertise in these areas, you can position yourself as a valuable asset to potential clients. Not only will we be able to justify the pricing that we charge for what we do, but by going through these elements, you can demonstrate the benefits you bring to a podcast production to help it grow, maintain, and sustain itself. You will become the main focus and best resource for your podcaster. And if you're listening to this and you're a podcaster going, sounds great, Dave, but where do I find this person? Well, my hand is raised. And selfishly, this is why I do the show. I would love to work with you as a podcaster. I would love to help you in your journey. And whether you need something small, whether you need something temporary, or you need a long-term commitment, you need someone in your corner, I would love to work with you. Reach out to me today. Podcasteditingandsupport.com is my website for this show. And then my business is called truemediasolutions.ca. Love to connect with you. Either place, it's me, it's Dave. You're going to get me. And I'm so grateful and thankful for you to be here. Got more coming up under our little mini-series about implementing project-based pricing for podcast services. A few more episodes coming up as well. Make sure you pay attention and listen and follow and share and do all those great things. And I would love for you to come back and hear the next episode as we dig a little deeper in this. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Visit us at podcasteditingandsupport.com, podcasteditingandsupport.com. We would love to help you find a great podcast editor, or if you want to hire us, we would love to work with you. Podcasteditingandsupport.com. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.